It's sleek, and I am, of course, talking about the KIZER Veritas. How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and it's finally here. It's a knife that we can talk about on this channel, and I'm really excited to, because it was very well hyped this year. I wanted to know what all the buzz was about. And shout out and thank you to my friend Jason, aka Knife Dope, for lending me this knife, because he says that it is actually not good, it's very good. And we're about to talk about whether or not I agree, because these things are all opinions. And as he knows, as you know, I am doing a countdown to the knife of the year, which we will decide at the end of 2023. It's a big contest. It is world-shaking news. It is my opinion. Regardless, this is the KIZER Veritas, and we're going to talk about it. Here it is, guys. One of the most hyped, if not the most hyped, KIZER knives of 2023. Yeah, the KIZER Veritas. That's not Veritas as in Veritas, which means truth. It's Latin. It's Veritas, Veritas, which I have no idea what it means. But what I do know is that I'm happy that this has finally made its way to my review table. And once again, shout out to my buddy Jason, aka Knife Dope, for making this happen, because this is not, in fact, my knife. This was not provided for review by KIZER. This is a knife that Jason is lending me. And he's lending it to me because he is a staunch believer that this is one of the best knives of 2023. He was super excited about it. So in turn, I'm excited about it. I want to find out what makes this knife so good. Is it so good? Is it deceptively good? Or is it just kind of, you know, overhyped? So we're going to talk about it. Here's how it's going to go down. We'll go over the specs, of course. I'll do a few comparisons with some other knives, and then I'll give you the pros, I'll give you the cons, and of course, my final opinion. So with all of that being said, what are we working with here? Let's start off with the price tag. This knife is in the ever elusive price range of $100 to $200. Currently, if you were to buy this from KIZER Knives, you'd be looking at the price tag of $169. So what is your $169, $170? What do you get for that? First and foremost, we're looking at an overall length of about 7.7 inches. 3¼ of that is, in fact, the blade length. The blade itself is made out of S35VN, and then, of course, we have titanium on the handle scales. Now, despite the fact that we are looking at almost 8 inches of titanium and steel, it doesn't weigh that much. That's kind of shocking. This is going to be coming in at slightly, like a hair over 3 ounces. So the whole knife actually is not even at the ounce and inch. It's below that. And that's nice, because sometimes light feels premium, and 100% in this case, it does. For the body, we are looking at this single-sided captive pivot, and this is a crazy one because the pivot's actually a square. Crazy, right? It is running on ceramic bearings, T8 on the pivot, T6 on the rest of the hardware. We have a 3D milled simplistic titanium pocket clip, and then of course a titanium backspacer as well. It includes deployment options such as a front flipper and a deployment hole, and it is designed by Jacob Lundquist, which, if you're not familiar with Jacob Lundquist, it'll bring us into our first comparison. Here it is up against an earlier design from Lundquist Blade Works, and that is, of course, the KIZER Feist XL. And I don't know if he just has a thing for a certain blade length, but as you can see here, these knives are actually very close. Now, this being the Feist XL, this is the larger version, and so yeah, it's going to be similar as far as the size. As far as the thickness, the Veritas is actually a bit thinner on that. The handle scale thickness on the Feist is, well, it's quite a bit thicker. What about if we were to go ahead and compare it up against something else like this, for example, which is the CJRB Enthusiast Pyrite? Now, the Pyrite is actually a really good comparison for this. You'll see that the Veritas is actually a little bit longer. As far as the handle scale profile is concerned, they are extremely close. But in fact, the Veritas is just ever so slightly thinner. That's pretty crazy. As far as the blade profile, they're actually very close as well, especially there in the thumb hole. And then lastly, we have up against the Spyderco PM2, and in this case, the Blood Money PM2. If you want to see my build video for that guy, it's called Pimp My Knife. I will link it up above. Go ahead and check that out. I had a lot of fun with that build. As you can see, the PM2 is going to be longer, and it's going to be quite a bit heftier as far as the footprint is concerned. Handle scale thickness is actually going to be very, very close. I would say that that is, well, it's spot on. So handle scale thickness is about the same, but that is it. Let's talk about the pros, and there is so many pros. I want to start off with the first one being, I love the fact that this is a square pivot, and I know that I'm not alone. A square pivot is kind of interesting to me because have you ever heard the saying, you can't fit a square peg in a round hole? Well, Jacob Lundquist didn't hear that, and as you could tell, that's exactly what he did here. The action on here is very, very smooth, and he actually combined two of my favorite deployment options. First one being the front flipper, which deploys really, really easily and without much fanfare. And the second being the deployment hole. He nailed it. He definitely knew what he was doing here. Now, I know what some people are going to say, well, he didn't do a ambidextrous pocket clip. Yes, he did. And you might be wondering, but where, oh, where is that? If you check this out, you see that bit of discoloration up near the top? That is, in fact, a filler tab. But even though this is a textured handle scale, which is very lightly textured, by the way, they cut the filler tab out of the handle scale after they textured it. A lot of people will tell me, well, they didn't want to do ambidextrous clip because then it ruins the show side, because then it interrupts the design. If you want to know how to do it so it doesn't interrupt the design, this is how you do it. Stop telling me that it can't be done. KIZER just proved that it can. That is fantastic. I love the addition of a backspacer. Even though it's not a very big one, it is going to protect the tip of this blade so that that stays nice and sharp and doesn't get damaged or dulled by other stuff in your pocket. Also, the access to this deployment hole is very intentional. Thank you. I'm so tired of deployment holes and fullers that are there, but they're hard to access. I don't want to have to dig my grubby fingers to find it. And on this one, you definitely don't have to because it's right there. The lock bar access is great. There is no issue getting to that lock bar access whatsoever. It's fantastic. And based on just how good this front flipper is designed as well, with this adequate jimping right there, I can even do my favorite way to deploy a front flipper, which is actually not front flipping at all. I call this the snap flick, which is very annoying to people around me, but I enjoy it. So that's what matters, right? There's a lot to love about this knife. Decent amount of belly here on this edge, and it's a very, very common blade shape with that drop point, but it's not trying to do anything super special. It's going to work well in generally most cases, and it's also not telling you what to do with anything other than your index finger, which brings me to my next point. The index finger is actually going to fit well. The ergos on here are fantastic in a regular grip. I've got medium to large size gloved hands, depending upon who makes the gloves. And in a regular grip, it's great. In a choked up grip, it's better because of this 50-50 finger choil. That's what this is called. When they break up that finger cutout between the blade and the handle scale. Other companies that do that are companies like Spyderco. For example, 50-50 finger choil on this PM2, and you also find that on knives like the Para 3 and also on knives for example, like this TRM Shadow. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So that's all well and good. The lockup on here is solid. I'm not feeling any blade play left or right, up or down. It's solid. Good to go there. So I'm over here raving about the qualities of this knife. The action is good. They put a square peg in a round hole. Bonus points for that. The front flipper is fantastic. They have the 50-50 finger choil. It fits well in the hand. They have the hidden filler tab so that you can make this pocket clip reversible. What are the cons? And yes, there are actually a few cons. The first con is going to be that throughout this whole process, I can't help but continue to focus on the fact that the body screws are in fact T6. There is absolutely no reason here in 2023 why we should have T6 body screws. And some people are going to say, is it that big of a deal? Well, you know what? The answer is no. And in the $100 to $200 price range, I'm okay with it. I can live with it. I just want to know sincerely why. Does it cost more to put T8 body screws on a knife? Does it really cost that much more? Why do we have such a plethora of knives that has T6 body screws when we know for a fact that the community wants T8 just like we get on the pivot? Why? Second is going to be this pocket clip. This pocket clip is, I feel like they had an opportunity to do something really cool here. They could have done something different with the pocket clip. Now the pocket clip, it's not to say that the pocket clip gets in the way. You know, it just, I feel like the pocket clip doesn't fit the knife as well as it could design wise. Ergonomically speaking, it's great. As far as function is concerned, it's not necessarily deep carry, but you have about this much sticking out of your pocket. So if you're going to do a 3D milled pocket clip and you're going to have me sacrifice this much of the knife to the elements as it hangs outside of my pocket, at least do something cool with it. You know, maybe continue this pattern on the flat of that pocket clip. That would have been great. And that's it, guys. That's the only cons that I have for this knife. I'm actually extremely impressed. The first time I picked this up, I was like, I'm going to have to talk about how the pocket clip's not reversible. And then I noticed the hidden filler tab, which is fantastic. And it proves a point that I've had for a long time. I also really enjoy the fact that it's something new from Jacob Lundquist. It feels like he's done this design 100 times with just different sizes and different OEMs. And you could tell because this used to be his logo. And now this is his logo. He's evolved, he's ranked up, and he's definitely going places. I love to see that evolution from a well-known and well-respected designer. It feels great to finally get something that doesn't look like all of his other designs that we've seen up to this point. This is refreshing, and it's in that super hard to find price range of $100 to $200. I frequently get asked the question, what should I buy with premium materials between $100 to $200? And often I end up defaulting to Spyderco, because you can get a lot of good Spydercos in that range, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you already have those, what else is there? Believe it or not, there's not a ton of amazing knives that have been released this year in the $100 to $200 price point that just blow me away, but this is in fact one of them. Are there knives that I would like better than this? Absolutely, but they 100% cost more. Are there knives that are great that cost less? Yes, there is, but they don't typically have this attention to detail and these premium materials. The S35 VN on here is 100% fantastic. The job on this titanium is really good. It is so well pocketed on the inside of here. It's no doubt why it weighs just right there at 3 ounces. The balance is good, which satisfies me as I love to flip around knives and index them. And of course, the action being good doesn't hurt either. I love being able to snap flick this thing. And overall, I'm really impressed. I could go on and repeat myself, but I'm going to just go ahead and get this out of the way. I don't believe that there is a better KIZER knife for the money that's been released this year. I'll say that again for the people in the back. In my opinion, This is the best KIZER released in 2023. Part and due to the design language, part and due to the price, and the other part being the execution and the materials. This knife is fantastic, and it's been sold out for the last couple of months, but guess what? They are in fact available. I'll drop a couple affiliate links in the description below. So, if you want to support the channel and you're thinking about picking one of these up anyways, go ahead and use those links. I would greatly appreciate it. You don't have to, but it does help the channel when you do, so that I can continue to make content about knives like this. I'm curious, do you know what Veritas stands for? Does it stand for anything? And if you can think of a better KIZER knife released in 2023 in the $100 to $200 price point, hit me up in the comment section down below. And by the way, if you want to watch more awesome knife content, make sure to click on the video that pops up next.